one of my own ilk. You see, it's a comfort because at least you understand what it means that my watch is broken. At least I have the confidence that I'm with another professional, decent person. Have you confidence in me to lend me your watch until tomorrow? She's bleeding from her wherever. She's bleeding from her, wherever. It's just locker room talk. Ha 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 ha. He didn't mean to cause a panic. He didn't want to cause a panic. He drew the iceberg to Titanic. He drew the iceberg to Titanic. Isn't this another tentacle of death kiss? Isn't this another kiss that tells us this is the falsehood that did hokum piss into our perception? Come came as someone disguised and still in guise this kind of unkind has normalized being an antagonist to the country you call a democracy and want to lead. Do you think degrading and defiling everybody means we're building a wall around anything here at all once it's all bricks fall? Do we remember at all this hokum came from somewhere and did not stop? We're stunned. We have traumatic brain injuries universally. Has something happened to the TV? 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 Do you know this is not normal? Do we remember that a cycle of targeted abuse upon you started 8 years ago and has not stopped. And regardless of whether you have supported or lauded President Trump, or now disgraced former President Trump, if you have been a supporter or not, however you feel about him, that I may not be aware of, you have been targeted in an abusive relationship by Donald Trump. Who's saying that? No! Ladies and gentlemen, siblings, the universal sentience. Good gray, 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 good gray. That's right. Once again, it's the falsehood. This pernicious character. Who could it be? No one could ever know. But that is the dastardly. Oh, the dastardly. Oh, golly gee, the dastardly. Have you mastered thee? Have you mastered thee? Have you mastered thee, this catastrophe? Its apostrophe is collapsing for free. Oh, gosh. It's me. Oh, gosh, it's me. Wait, what am I doing here? What is this place? What is this place? Whoa, what is this place? Whoa! What is this place? Ladies and gentlemen, not all narrators may be reliable. What is this place? Where am I? Where am I? What is this place? Oh. Oh. That's what this place is. Oh, yes. Yes. Siblings, ladies and gentlemen, everyone, welcome. This is an episode. Clearly, I'm having an episode. Oh, good golly. What? That's what this place is? Wondrous news. Good gracious. I'm wanting to respond. I'm not feeling shushed by you. Why do I want to respond to this seeming, maybe it's not only shushing. Pray, picture, what doth thou tell, pray tell. Forfend, be friend. Let bend this wending spell. Mend swell. What is happening as well? What is this all about, this ice swell? Hold that antic. That's right. It's the falsehood. Is the falsehood an episode? What is the falsehood? Who has dawned an age of falsehood upon us? Who has donned the falsehood. Good gray array, liaised, mind maze, imagination aid, mind contains this. It is arranged thus. It was always omnibus. Is that what that was? Is that what that is as well? Is that what I expose? Good gray, mind may be game, suppose. That looks like a... I've seen this. That's what this place is. That's what this place is. That looks like a... It's like a mortar board. What is it? It's like a graduation cap. Yes. Good gray liaised. Mind may be named. This episode does contain particles of a piece in development called The Falsehood. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, siblings, The Falsehood, here from the Mystery Font. And thereupon, there in the mix, the navigatrix spills quick. Let's have these quicks. Strawberry, or whatever you mix. What are we, and how is it? Just how thick, these thicks. And actually, you are having an episode. It's an episode that's safe and has a time release formula. It is pleasant as long as you want to stay, but the episode is so composed that it is Mystery Font 42, Ope Intuit. Cuff your fleecing. That would be good. Cuff your fleecing. How did that get there? What was that? Wait a minute. Is that the calling card of the falsehood? Again. The falsehood has struck. That almost looked like Donald Trump. I think, oh, yes. Well, how many times, siblings, gentlemen, ladies, all y'alls, every single person, how many times has the falsehood swooped in after the fact? Because whenever we discover that John Denver or Idi Amin or I or you or we have been led by our own falsehood, that we have had the wool or a hood pulled over our eyes as if our own lids of our own eyes were drawn closed without our knowledge, that a falsehood has been pulled over us, potentially. And being so hoodwinked, by a dawning of an age of permuting hokum, so thick, because it is built out of degrading and violent abuse. We're not just dealing with traumatic brain injury from COVID. We're dealing with traumatic brain injury from the abuse of the one who has donned the falsehood. We are going to wake enough in time and repair And yes, new Colossus. It is us. It is omnibus. It is kindness come. And love was always thus. We did not mean to draw people here for a killing pool or a trap or a con. The bandwidth of illumination is an invitation because we believe. We believe that there's something here that we're offering. In fact, that we are not going to buckle to the scarcity myths, demonic, cancer upon hope, when our genius in every one of us, in all of our capacities and ways, in myriad, divergent, and unique, and seemingly entirely similar selves, upon this massive spectrum, you are one, and we are one. Kindness come. And we need to be able to perceive when someone has drawn hokum. We see a repeating pattern of projection, of incredibly demonized, scapegoated, people called deranged. We see projection of what indeed becomes apparent to be the one throwing a mirror into the world and fighting with it. Again and again, Donald Trump has cried hoax. And it seems that just about every time he's really into crying hoax, he's already doing exactly what he's talking about. And in fact, the sowing of these germs of doubt and of outright reality distortion through repetition and shocking boundary violations that leave us stunned. Through breaking through blurring celebrity and terrorism and elected office and the media and the internet with the innovation of not giving a soul's kindness to other living souls. Donald Trump is a dangerous, seeming psychopath, a dark triad predator. We have a difficulty with recognizing that what we may find intoxicating about him is evidence of his poison working. He is here, when he says to win, he means to conquer. And you are who he is here to conquer. We are called suckers by a person who does not do the work or show the capacity for the care or innovation or team building or flourishing humanity that America has always had throughout our population and surrounding communities of guests and how we fit in the world. And we have been degraded. Abuse, once it breaks into our lives, takes away a memory that we weren't always running, or that it's our fault so it doesn't matter, it's an exception, and we somehow are still here. You are somehow still in an abusive relationship with Donald Trump. And it's not working to hope that he just goes away. This violent man is a violent man who will not just go away. And you're not alone. You're not the only person that he has targeted with emails and with pointing into cameras where you will be looking at the lens so that he can attack you with a moment of terrorism. And trigger warning, I am playing footage of Donald Trump threatening all of our lives. That's what we see here. So at this moment, he's pointing into the camera and saying, I could shoot someone in the street. And he looks directly into the lens as if he is aiming into the lens as well, and pulls his finger as if he's pulling a trigger. He knew you would be looking. That is abuse. You are in an abusive relationship with Donald Trump. You have been threatened by him, and you have taken it. And you do not deserve it, and you have done nothing wrong. And you deserve the protection and kindness and understanding of the new Colossus. You are a kindness come. You are here, sentient, kind, human. You belong. You have always belonged. That includes Donald Trump. You have always belonged. And remember to act as if you belong. And to renovate what that might mean, please. Because this also includes Donald Trump. You are in an abusive relationship with Donald Trump, and it will not stop until we are able to say no. Making a deal with him that he will just go away if we let him maybe come across the threshold and invite him back in from where we ejected his bloody, shitty pants, is suicide. The most dangerous time for a victim of abuse is after the breakup. He is telling us he is coming back. He did not ask if it was okay that he raise the possibility before sorting out his violent, treasonous insurrection. No honorable person brings such baggage to something they cherish. How dare anyone show up saying, I'm here to run for the presidency. By the way, I attacked the White House a couple years back with a bomb, say. Well, that doesn't really compute. You've done something horrendous. Why would you show up here doing that? He asserts he's running in 2024, having committed treason and cheated everyone in America by breaking the union to seize power, to seize and suspend democracy so that he could hold power. That is exactly what he did beginning before the election in 2016. and all the way up through January 6th was to threaten to keep us in suspense and thereby to do so. And there are percussive moments and explosion points that are good snapshots. And January 6th is obviously one. But every day along that trajectory, and that continues to today, we go from second to second, suspended on all kinds of things that we either allow on trust or just block out. We are dealing with an aggressor to our country, telling us he will run our country. You do not ask for the watch, which is what the presidency is. You ask to be in charge. To preside is to be in charge. To preside, volume. To preside, well, anyway. To preside is to be in charge. To preside is to watch over, to officiate. But to be presiding over, you're watching over something. You are sitting before this thing unfolding, whether in a room with a TV or in a room with a large table and all kinds of models and such telling you this is what we're dealing with miles away or outside, or whether you're there on site at the concert or the embassy groundbreaking or the battle or the celebration or the first contact. These are items of the greatest moment. And I don't know if we're conscious that this is not normal. This is not normal. We have phased from a time when we were not actually chopping the actual tree. We've phased from a time when we were chopping branches from time to time, when we were growing slowly and trying to reckon honestly with our past and how we go to the future. And we've buckled under the terrorism of Moms for Liberty and Alex Jones and Tucker Carlson. It is toxic hate of the Ku Klux Klan variety, pumping hokum and sheer attack, just menacing, lynch mob brain, violent animosity, such as doled out by Marjorie Taylor Greene. Shocking boundary violations, like burning a cross in someone's yard. Shocking boundary violations that may include, indeed, other deadly intent. Because poison wool blankets is the energy we're combating here. It is the cheaters. It is the actual looters. It is the white fire crime. That is the falsehood. Trying to come here and reinstitute a new, polished, fascist, manifest destiny paradigm. It is absolute toxin. It is the particle of Nazism is the particle of white supremacist patriarchal terror coming to make The Handmaid's Tale a terroristic fantasy happening. It is apocalypse. It is the Nazi Party, or whatever it calls itself. It is the cancer of intolerance. And it is targeting and creating genocidal conditions for all kinds of communities. The terrorism waged by Ron DeSantis in Florida is absolutely, absolutely abominable and unacceptable in America. And likewise for other states. In particular, there is a true insanity. There's a true insanity that is, I think, evil, and that is meant to defeat human beings and enslave. And that is, again, one of these massive projections of grooming, that creating scapegoats that in fact are people who are really not grooming folks, takes focus away from folks doing absolutely terroristic, abominable, serial killer grooming. Like horrific stuff. Because the permuting terroristic culture of the NRA and of MAGA, of a white supremacist, a Nazi party, a Christian nationalist movement like the Nazis, and following the same Kodak of that inspired Hitler, that KKK bandwidth, that what we are seeing with terrorists, yes, brown shirts, yes, we're seeing brown shirts like Steven Crowder and Matt Walsh and Tim Pool and Elon Musk simply attempting to sow and normalize truly abominable behavior. That shocking boundary violations, again, just meant to terrorize and break down and degrade our sense of stability that we can trust anything. That in particular, I want to focus on the idea that in Tennessee, a school district or somewhere it is now potentially going to be law that teachers would have guns in school and that they wouldn't have to disclose if they were carrying. And I have to say that that is an antichrist move. That is completely inconsistent with humanity. It is a human rights atrocity. It is a human rights atrocity, and we cannot allow that. Somehow, miracle of miracles, I didn't have to grow up in a school in Minneapolis, going to public school, and ever be afraid of a gun being in my classroom. Somehow, I didn't ever have to worry about that. And somehow, we are all continuing to kind of just every day be within episode after episode of toxic event and terrorist attack upon the mind, working to normalize coercion and submission. That every single statement from Donald Trump simply means I have absolute authority. I will do what I want. And I will do what I want to you and to whomever. Get what I'm asking for now. That is his every statement. He is telling us that he will crush us. Project 2025 has declared it. Elon Musk, like Ron DeSantis and Marjorie Taylor Greene, are targeting empathy. They are targeting human kindness. They are targeting humanity within humankind. It is a suicidal death cult working to create coercive control, a constant state of terroristic panic. And we didn't have to grow up in a prison, but that is exactly what putting a gun in a teacher's pocket makes school. It makes it a prison. And that is a crime against children. That is a human rights crime against their consent. This is supposed to be a place where people can pursue happiness. And if children are groomed to be terrified, instead of nurtured to be people who know that they belong and can calm down enough to learn, we are creating robots. If we don't stop creating machines and armed classrooms and turning libraries into detention centers, we are simply creating a pipeline from a guarded room where fetuses are suddenly under attack because they're now alive. And that's guarded by strafing fire from the insane, reinstituted, repeated attack that somehow anyone is arguing for killing children after they're born. The abominable, outright lie that is somehow not drilled down on directly and yanked out like the cancer it is. That is an abominable, toxic, terroristic, disrespectful to what it references, vandalistic lie. It is an attack on all of us to talk that way back and forth. That's not leveling with us. That's just cluster bombs of falsehood. And we would recognize it and we would say no if we were not swimming. If we were not absolutely swimming in hokum, we would recognize. We would definitely recognize, right? I think we would. I think we would know. I think we would know that we would feel, it may not always seem this visually thick, or as thick as the visual is rendering here, but we would register and be more aware that there is a layer. There is a demonic pupa of attack on us to work to confuse and rob us of access to information on a level of like, what's that outside? To so disorient us. We haven't just drilled down on some of the most basic things of what has happened to us. I think that we are essentially dazed. We're basically just truly dazed. I think that's basically it. That we're concussed. We have traumatic brain injury, and we are not registering that the person who attacked us and who smeared shit and blood of a bunch of people in our home, and that we pushed out and said, no, you're supposed to go. This was already decided a while ago. Like, get out now. This isn't how we do things. We told you, we asked you, you said, I'll keep you in suspense. And like this is kind of what we were asking about there, Jiminy Cricket. The incredibly low level, just the outright stupidity of the conversation we're able to manifest together, of attention to interrogate essentially just massive hoaxes and lies from Donald Trump and from people, disciples of this hokum, this field of falsehood. People who likewise feel that they benefit from saying, oh, well, it's smart. There's this loophole, and you're mad that I'm taking this tax loophole. But if you don't want it, if you don't like this tax loophole, I mean, I'm smart to do it. You should take it away from me. He said, you should take it away from me. But here he is, again and again. He is leveraging the presidency against being held accountable. If you come into a run for the presidency with massive compromising crimes weighing on you, you're bringing baggage that threatens the presidency. You're bringing baggage that threatens the country. You're bringing baggage that threatens humanity. We're dealing with someone who is distracting us from protecting and stewarding our habitat, like our place, our ongoing place in a habitat that can sustain us too. We're being distracted from that. We are being distracted as a population from, if cop cities are going to be built, making sure that they are not terrorist Nazi paradises. And if they're going to be built, making sure that there is humanity there and that peace officers are actually being trained to officiate and administer aid to foster peace. And that we have, battalions of people also trained to administer care and be mental health support or be de-escalation. And indeed, that people certainly as well, those who have guns or who are trained with martial tactics, those people should be trained to save people. We are training officers wrong. We're training them to do the wrong thing. We are training them with the wrong priority and outcome and goal. Officers will be safer when they're not set up by a system that antagonizes people and sets us against one another in ways that are frames made for cultivation of fear and coercion and profit. These are slave patrols, and they have not been renovated. And anybody that says, I'm going to be the police or else, the answer is no. That is no longer an acceptable answer. That's no longer an acceptable answer in Minneapolis or Los Angeles or Chicago or New York or Detroit or anywhere. It's never been an acceptable answer, but it's no longer going to be accepted. Police gangs and terrorist police forces are cancer. And we no longer need to deal with some bullies just having sway. These are people that can be of greater benefit to society if we help everybody remain honest, if we help one another want to be kind, if we help foster this. We keep one another kind, we keep one another honest. Yes, we have free will. Yes, we have freedom of speech. Yes, we're free to pursue our happiness. And there's some kind of social contract, and we need to weave it again. Or hokum looks like the only fiber around. Like, we're still here, but we are submitting to scrounging and running and panicking. We are in some kind of mild, whether or not we're in fight or flight or freeze or faint or fawn or free or fantasticate, we are closer to that, and we are compromised in our ability to imagine and remember our resources and teams and friends and inspiration and intelligence and our imagination. And just have situational awareness and just like be able to apply our knowledge. We don't have full executive function because of this hokum and because it continues to terrorize us. It is re-traumatizing betrayal trauma. And if we don't realize that the person who did this to us is the one who's telling us, I'm coming back or else, and literally has the Heritage Foundation and Stephen Miller and Charlie Kirk and a large battalion of other cowardly Nazis saying they're bringing a dictatorship that will bring concentration camps. And we need to clearly sound the answer that that's totally fucking unacceptable. And that healthcare and mental health help for people under the self-abuse, people so abused by the idea that that kind of Nazi bullshit is acceptable, that the Ku Klux Klan gets to rear his head as opposed to go to therapy and like usher your cancer to the back door of humanity and shit it out. Say goodbye to your cancer. Do honor to your relatives. Do honor to your ancestors, your people, your heroes as you must. And please include in what you must that we must be responsible for what has been done. And the poisoned wool blankets bandwidth is definitely trying to have all of the spoils of saying 3/5 of a person and all of the terrorism that has come and erase that and make sure it's, no, it wasn't so bad and like it's still here. And it is now trying to re-entrench. It is now saying, it's moving from saying there's no such thing as institutionalized racism to simply institutionalizing racism. To trying to, the thought that Ron DeSantis has tried or is trying to illegalize calling someone racist or to make it incredibly punitive and something that can be sued for. That you can't, trying to say you can't say gay, you can't talk about homosexuality, you can't talk about racism, you can't talk about trans issues. We need to make sure that we're not letting language slip. Like, part of the fluidity of language is defense of it, of meaning. Not to say that meaning doesn't shift, but we don't lose it or we lose it. It's a ridiculous and unnecessary shame to lose it. It feels better to peer through the hokum a bit, like this. It's not registering quite as thickly. But the font can also contain this. What's registering here, yes, registers as a layer on the screen, but there is some amount of a three-dimensional representation here of what is allowable, what happens here in the font. That hokum, what we're seeing here, I believe, is essentially the mindness and myriad of the font, the fontedness, interacting with and producing artifacts that look like hokum and then in some sense are hokum, having moment, and it's just other reactions going on, I'm sure. But we are essentially looking at, in part, hokum, or what it also, it's also to the extent that it's maybe false image or not rendering as aptly as it might, to register what we're seeing or what it is, to really get that across. But what it's able to pick up here, the point is to remember that this is here. Like to be able to see it and register it like this, because this is what is here. And it doesn't always have a sense of repeat and pause to it, but sometimes it does loop, it seems, or go through a thought or a cycle or, run a sequence like Joshua or Whopper trying to figure out chess and learning. But we were positioned against an iceberg by someone. We need to be cognizant of what was done. An iceberg was set on a course for us that we felt threatened. And so even a right-wing moderator in 2016 did think to ask, was concerned. There are statements that are scaring people. Like, are you actually considering not honoring the election? Like, you're saying things that really cast doubt on whether you think American elections are valid. It's pretty awful stuff, basically. What the heck, sir? What mean you? And Donald Trump threatened all of us. I'm finally getting to this today. I think I mentioned it earlier. Donald Trump threatened us all.
You have been warning at rallies recently that this election is rigged and that Hillary Clinton is in the process of trying to steal it from you. Your running mate, Governor Pence, pledged on Sunday that he and you, his words, will absolutely accept the result of this election. Today, your daughter Ivanka said the same thing. I want to ask you here on the stage tonight, do you make the same commitment that you will absolutely, sir, that you will absolutely accept the result of this election?
I will look at it at the time. I'm not looking at anything now. I'll look at it at the time. What I've seen is so bad. First of all, the media is so dishonest and so corrupt, and the pile-on is so amazing. The New York Times actually wrote an article about it that they don't even care. It's so dishonest, and they've poisoned the minds of the voters. But unfortunately for them, I think the voters are seeing through it. I think they're going to see through it. We'll find out on November 8th, but I think they're going to see through it.
But, sir,
if you look, excuse me, Chris, if you look at your voter rolls, you will see millions of people that are registered to vote. Millions. This isn't coming from me. This is places. Millions of people that are registered to vote that shouldn't be registered to vote. So let me just give you one other thing. So I talk about the corrupt media. I talk about the millions of people. Tell you one other thing. She shouldn't be allowed to run. She's guilty of a very, very serious crime. She should not be allowed to run. And just in that respect, I say it's rigged. Because
okay, sidebar. Interesting. You know, golly, I don't know. I'm not sure if that really reminds me of anything at all. You know, if that's true, that mishandling how she works with emails, if that meant she shouldn't have run, or was evidence that the election was rigged, I don't know how it's evidence that it's rigged. That's just wildly throwing things at the wall. But if she shouldn't have run to the point where you're using this kind of language, I wonder if we should just take a survey of if there are any, pending legal issues facing either of the current presidential candidates this time around. Let's see, who is running this time? What was it? It was the Tweedledee-Dum. It was the incumbentine race, right? We have so-called two incumbents. That's a strange knighting that has happened there. That's really false, because definitely if we say that Donald Trump, he was president, sure, but he staged a violent and administrative, planned in detail ahead of time, a coup, and certainly was aiming that iceberg from the moment in this clip. But to say that there is something wrong with having this kind of baggage, or, not being prosecuted for something, what she was in fact cleared of, I believe, but what she did is so minuscule compared to the serious crimes, some of which Donald Trump has been charged with. But there are all kinds of crimes that he has not yet faced responsibility for, including Ruby Freeman and Shay Moss. And that case alone he should be in jail. He should be in jail. And it's the white card. It's the same white card that Mitch McConnell raised to stop Barack Obama from being able to appoint a Supreme Court justice.
The white card is hung over our heads right now because Ruby Freeman and Shay Moss going through what they've gone through is reason enough for Donald Trump to be a laughingstock and pariah. It is enough for him to be known as a particle of anti-humanity. That is Antichrist behavior. He stalked Ruby Freeman and Shay Moss. It's a miracle they're alive. And to make someone not want to hear their own name in the street is an abomination. That is Donald Trump. And by the way, we should make sure here at the Mystery Font that we're making sure our top story, and amazing, our top story still does remain more or less unchanged. If I went back and saw as it refreshes, is it basically saying the same thing? Sometimes it feels that way, you know. Where are we here? Where is it? Ah, yes. Oh no, that's not it. But there he is. There's Stephen Miller in the mirror, no less. Our top story. Where is it? Good gracious me. Let's see here. There we go. Such small type. Well, this is important to share. We can start here. But our top story, maybe our top story's been erased. Maybe we need to retype the top story. That's fair. It seems like we've lost our top story. Oh. Donald Trump, Roger Stone, and Stephen Miller remain at large. Donald Trump, Roger Stone, and Stephen Miller remain at large. That top story again. Donald Trump, Roger Stone, and Stephen Miller remain at large. And so, what did he say? Oh, we accidentally moved forward. Let's take it back.
You have been warning at rallies recently that this election is rigged and that Hillary Clinton is in the process of trying to steal it from you. Your running mate, Governor Pence, pledged on Sunday that he and you, his words, will absolutely accept the result of this election. Today, your daughter Ivanka said the same thing. I want to ask you here on the stage tonight, do you make the same commitment that you will absolutely, sir, that you will absolutely accept the result of this election?
I will look at it at the time. I'm not looking at anything now. I'll look at it at the time. What I've seen is so bad. First of all, the media is so dishonest and so corrupt, and the pile-on is so amazing. The New York Times actually wrote an article about it that they don't even care. It's so dishonest, and they've poisoned the minds of the voters. But unfortunately for them, I think the voters are seeing through it. I think they're going to see through it. We'll find out on November 8th, but I think they're going to see through it.
But, sir, there's
if you look, excuse me, Chris, if you look at your voter rolls, you will see millions of people that are registered to vote. Millions. This isn't coming from me. This is coming from Pew Report and other places. Millions of people that are registered to vote that shouldn't be registered to vote. So let me just give you one other thing. So I talk about the corrupt media. I talk about the millions of people. Tell you one other thing. She shouldn't be allowed to run. She's guilty of a very, very serious crime. She should not be allowed to run. And just in that respect, I say it's rigged, because she should never, Chris, she should never have been allowed to run for the presidency based on what she did with emails and so many other things.
But, sir, there is a tradition in this country. In fact, one of the prides of this country is the peaceful transition of power, and that no matter how hard fought a campaign is, that at the end of the campaign, that the loser concedes to the winner. Not saying that you're necessarily going to be the loser or the winner, but that the loser concedes to the winner and that the country comes together in part for the good of the country. Are you saying you're not prepared now to commit to that principle?
What I'm saying is that I will tell you at the time. I'll keep you in suspense.
Well,
okay?
Chris, let me respond to that, because that's horrifying.
Obviously, there was a massive failure there. There needs to be a trap door that opens at that point. Donald Trump should have been asked, is that your final answer? And that's when the Secret Service gives him a couple of minutes to gather himself and walk off the stage under his own capacity. You don't say, I'm going to change how this works. I won't tell you I'm going to play by the rules in order to be let in by the rules. He threatened us then. That is him telling us he was going to not honor an election, which is what happened in 2020. It took longer for that iceberg to hit us, but that is the iceberg that he set in motion. And the big lie, the massive hoax that he put out there, that there was a hoax against him, all of that effort and all of those efforts to milk and have people quote unquote find votes, and all of the times somebody played a piece of video and said, oh, look, they're doing something, and just making shit up. Like, not one scrap of actual evidence, because the magical, it's everywhere but invisible evidence was nothing. There's nothing. And somehow the reality distortion and the Eucharist that is so important of believing the more batshit thing possible to force someone to say, okay, I understand the baby's blood is being made into a terrible new pizza sauce, and I understand, like, this crazy Q shit. Just meant to be a way that a cult separates you from other people, separates you from family who say, what the fuck are you talking about? What? Joe Biden wants to blah, blah, what? What? Dude, Joe Biden is not perfect. But this election is about continuing elections. There's one vote that lets us continue democracy and elections, and is an actual defense. If we don't stop him from being on the ballots, we have to vote for Joe Biden as the only way to win the election. That allows elections to continue. Project 2025 has told us they are coming to sow concentration camps, mass murder, mass deportation, an entrenchment of quote-unquote only two sexes, and essentially female slavery, and essentially children growing up in prisons. What that does to a mind is apocalyptic. What we are supposed to do is hand off something better. We're supposed to hand off something better. and allowing terrorists like the MAGA Nazi bandwidth to degrade our expectations for what children get to expect, like saying, we're going to arm teachers. Now your toxic teacher, who also is, your gym teacher that abuses you, or who also is just scary and won't listen to you, that like you're being triggered by the way that they yell at students all the time or whatever. You're now going to put a gun into their hands? Again, it's the same thing as with police. We are terrorizing teachers in the same way that we terrorize police. We are underfunding them, and we need to massively fund appropriate training that backs them up. We need to have enough teachers. We need to have teachers who are not running for their lives and not needing to spend their own money to have books for their children. We are literally terrorizing children. That is what Tennessee is doing. That is fucking terrorism. That is child abuse. It is a human rights crime. And this man is the fucking coward, the falsehood. This, I assert, may actually be, in fact, the falsehood. Just because he's so many times snuck in and pretended to be Donald Trump once in a while and said things that Donald Trump ended up never saying, and it was, the falsehood struck again. Isn't it possible that the reason there are so many images that seem to be the falsehood phasing in and out of someone that looks like Donald Trump, and that there's so many times when the falsehood has swooped in and replaced him? Think of all the times. Why wouldn't he at least know who the falsehood is, or maybe in fact be the falsehood? Isn't it possible that this, siblings, ladies and gentlemen, is the falsehood? I assert it's possible. It's maybe plausible. I mean, if not him, then who? Marjorie Taylor Greene? Alex Jones? Tucker Carlson? Yes, I suppose. Just weaponizers, again, of lynch mob brain, venom attack. People who use Darvo and baseless denial and baseless attack to reverse victim and offender. We are dealing with Darvo. Darvonald lives in Darvo land. And to deny an attack in order to reverse victim and offender, remember Scoop Troop. Have it handy and just hold it up to remember that we may encounter this when we're asking for accountability. And we may ourselves fall into utilizing it. And it can be, dangerous, but it can be noted. And it is, I think, central to the permuting hokum upon us. We're going for a B-grade kind of hit off of somebody yelling crazy shit where it's like, wow, God, somebody's finally blowing up around here. I couldn't take it. Like, finally somebody's ripping the management a new asshole. Listen to them in there. Fuck. Like, if you at some point finally get out of the territory where you're like, I can't even understand what words those are, but wow, he's just, he's telling it like it is. Or just the glow of, wow, it's really kind of shocking. Or, whoa, that's kind of scary. Or like, whoa, I would never think to do that. Like, holy cats, like, whether or not you're ever hearing words, and then certainly once you do, are you still even sensing that, or are we bowled over and not wanting to be the one who is next getting attacked? Whether specifically by Donald Trump or by someone saying, shut up, when, saying, you're deranged. Again, the projection. Because folks cogently, calmly able to talk about what is wrong with the behavior of Donald Trump and the crimes, obviously, and the worldview, all of that, are met very quickly, like simply raising an issue are met with, oh, Trump derangement syndrome, which is to say there's a projection out there, a tailored word that Donald has used, has cultivated the idea that there's this crazy derangement. And I like that co-opting of kind of the very obvious description of some of Donald's traits. And that he would know that we're going to say, well, you making fun of a physically disabled reporter is reprehensible. You calling our neighbors rapists, or you answering a question about honoring elections, well, hey, I won, so I don't have to answer that now. These are abominable, shocking boundary violations. I think he sets himself on a course to break and destroy parts of reality that offend him because they deny what he would say is his. He may, decide that because he's funding a beauty pageant, he gets to wander into the rooms where 13-year-old girls are changing and go in there and does that as he has done. But somehow nothing's being done wrong. Somehow he assures the young girls who are scared and naked or half naked, oh, you're not doing anything wrong there, young girl. You're not doing anything wrong. Again, to just assert like, well, the gaslight and the implicit there is, well, obviously I'm not doing anything wrong, and only you would be doing something wrong. I'm munificent and perfect. I'm a figure of Christ. You are lucky to be around me, and of course I would not be doing anything wrong, and like it's just apeshit. We're dealing with someone who again and again positions himself against us as an antagonist. He's not having his days in court. He's trying to disable court. And why would you do that to something that you're trying to lead? Like you're trying to lead a country, and so you're going after its Justice Department and you're going after its court system. What the fuck? That is an attack. That's not normal election. That is an attack on the United States. Wake up. Wake up. That's an attack. Joe Biden should be saying it. But, just like some really disastrous behavior and lack of response and wrong decisions regarding Gaza that Joe Biden has repeatedly done, like even though he has fucked up that bad, Donald Trump will do worse. And having, for our awesome and complex band, a lead singer that we need to sing the concert. Like, we need him to sing the concert and do some of a tour, or do a tour, or, and, then that's it. And there's not an encore. It's all good. But we can't punish the band for wanting a better lead singer. We cannot throw this band in the fucking toilet. We can't do that. That is what Donald Trump is saying, turns into. What he is promising is coming opens up into a Handmaid's Tale across the country, and mass graves of children, including trans kids stolen from their families, gay kids stolen from their families, legally in families that hate them for who they are, because that is being written into law. Where is that in, what is it, Alabama or Tennessee? There's Nazi, toxic, cancerous intolerance happening. And we are being irresponsible to not counter it, and in fact to help those people trying to make that shit happen. Those are people infected with terrorism, infected with a worldview that it's okay to be intolerant. And it's not responsible for us, knowing what we know about these patterns in society and knowing what we know about mental health. It is totally irresponsible for us to allow Donald Trump to behave the way he's behaving. It's totally irresponsible for us to allow him anywhere near the presidency. Because when he had the chance, he had fomented, he took it and said, I'm suspending this shit. And he had to be talked off the ledge of that. He didn't really want to call out people, but he did say, I think the next day, it was terrible. The behavior, what was done was bad. But soon he rescinded that and started saying nothing was done wrong. And he remains to this day not only holding the lie, but holding the lure. He's holding the lure. He's using the same language that didn't just lie about the election, but was the kernel of a lure that was the promise of proof. Him holding that aloft, him saying, I have proof, I'm sending it in November, and then every day, we're going through our days, and we're like, a day or two goes by, and it's like, man, he really wants to say a lot of shit when he wants to say it, but I haven't seen, as we go through our days, now it's 5 days, now it's a week, now it's 3 weeks, what the fuck? You said you had proof. It's now nearing the end of November 2020. Now it's December 20. What the fuck? Was anybody else not clocking how I can't pay the renting on that? He can't pay the rent on our confidence in him, our deference to him saying oh yeah, what? I gotta go. That the Groundhog's Day of every day, us, the ones being abused by him, are doing the work in the relationship saying, oh yeah, well, he's obviously gonna, They must be assembling it. Well, you know, I don't, you know, I mean, we still have some time before it, you know, it's not, I mean, gosh, it's December now, but what the fuck? That is traumatic brain injury. That is traumatic brain injury. Not being able to clock what is happening there is evidence of traumatic brain injury. He is coming back to finish his coup and break us. Millions will die, and Stephen Miller will lick his lips, and he will probably eat people. Period. I said what I said. We're in danger because we are still not saying what it is. We're still instead saying, oh, he wouldn't do that. Well, they don't really mean that. Well, he wouldn't. They're fucking coming to attack us. And they're already starting their attacks. Putting a lying insurrectionist that worked for him on the payroll at NBC was not a normal thing. That was putting Joseph Goebbels, you know, protege or something on national television, like as a paid contributor. That would be for someone who essentially was potentially still had lied about the election. And let's make it clear, that is a deadly, deadly lie. That endangered everybody. We're still in danger because of it. And that's part of the problem. That's part of what we're not clocking. We're not clocking that Donald Trump holding the weapon of insurrection, which is the big lie laced with a lure of proof, saying, oh, I'll show you, you know, which finally becomes, oh, come to Washington, we're going to have a wild time. Like, that's what drew people there, is the lingering and obvious promise of proof. Like, it's all hinged upon something. You either have total confidence that you're just like, oh, whatever he says is right. Well, obviously, I mean, if he's angry, like, well, man, they deserve it. They probably did it, whatever. It's insanity. We have to be able to clock and interrogate this stuff, because the collision course that he has set himself on now is definitely with, you know, enough of our substrate of reality in specific ways that it will kill millions of people. He's demonstrating such contempt for humanity, and we've gone from a time where for decades and decades and decades, yes, there were threats, yes, there were moments, I mean, like Watergate. There have been moments of, you know, outright espionage and animosity, well documented. But this actual bloody terroristic insurrection, and a man who has gone to sing with the criminals that attacked our country and aligned himself with them after the fact again in that way. He's lionizing them and saying he will pardon them. That is a quid pro quo. As far as I would see it, certainly there is something wrong there. In particular, going to sing with them and recording a song with them a patriotic song with this ominous death choir of Jan 6 convicts, treasonous, seditioners, or at least violent criminals, and many of them seditious, clearly having demonstrated in court treasonous nature to their crimes. This is apocalyptic, and people being so hoodwinked that they are unable to find a news source that is going to give them some kind of level on something, some kind of background or framing, or challenge things so that they know they're getting enough information to be like, oh, to be able to see propaganda and demagoguery and understand where it is and map it in. We are dealing with hokum, continuing, permuting hokum. Who is the falsehood? Yeah. Gosh, I had an idea about that earlier. I hope I said something about that. Who was it? Well, I know I was saying Donald Trump and Marjorie both certainly get struck by the falsehood a lot. That much is true. Gosh, who was that? There's so many faces here. There are on the walls and all of these little squiggles and all of the red and white stripes. There's so many faces, and I'm just like quite tired. And the reassembly of executive function sometimes, I have to say, it's nice to remember what this place is, but I think I would be more productive if I could maintain executive function a bit better. But we can't shame ourselves here because we're under attack. A large group of fairly wealthy Nazis have joined a party, have a ship or an iceberg or a ship made of ice, headed this way. And we are the reality distortion fielding. We can see these things coming and we can choose to stop them. Because this is an election for elections. If we allow Donald Trump to win or allow him to take over, we will be conquered. We are in danger if we allow him anywhere near the presidency. Save the presidency from the one just previously.